Hello.
Hi, Paulette.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. And hi, everyone who's joining.
I know this is so exciting.
I'm
Hello,
so
everyone,
excited.
too.
I see
Uh,
Katie Robbins. I'm so excited for this. How is everyone doing? How are you, Paulette?
I'm good. I'm so excited to do this. It's nice to put makeup on and to like feel like a real person after being in pajamas for so long. Um,
Yes, I completely agree.
exactly.
I said to myself, when I have a day off, even if I'm not, so there's day offs where you just wear like your sweatpants and like your old ballet tights and things like that. And then there's the days where you have a day off, but you need to like put on like a nice shirt. I'm wearing my new sneakers that I bought for work.
Love.
So sometimes when it comes to like getting motivated, the right outfit can really help like trick your brain into thinking that
It's so
everything's normal.
true. I called it the modern day mullet because you're literally completely business on the top and then you can just be in pajamas on the bottom and no one will know. You never know.
It's totally true. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm wearing my nice work jeans right now for the same reason. Like, if I had like another 10 minutes, I would have done my nails too, just because it would feel that much more polished and ready for work. But
Yes,
you know,
I have not done that in too long.
I hear you. Like all of you guys who are doing gels, like way to go. Like that was the smart choice.
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy. I know. I wish I knew how to do that. Maybe that's what I'll learn during all of this. That'll be my new talent. Exactly.
I'm seeing more people on here that I recognize. Like my cousin Christina just joined.
Yay.
Miss Stearns, I see you following. Who else?
Hello, Rachel.
I recognize Daniela is on here. Thank you, Daniela, for everything that you do to make all of us artists have these careers that we have and to feel pride every time we show up for work. Who do you
So true.
recognize on here?
Yes, we have Rachel and Daniela and all the London ladies, I think, are joining.
Yeah,
And everyone's just so excited. Like this to us, I think Milton Presents was supposed to be something that, connects the entire industry with agencies and with clients, but also just with being able to share real stories of people, and having conversations that aren't usually had or usually seen on TV or social media or anything, to be able to share your whole story and be able to really connect.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I say this all the time. I think, especially nowadays, like where everything is going on, now more than ever, I think it's really, really important that pro makeup artists, like we as a community, need to all speak up for ourselves and we need to guide the conversation about our crafts. I think there's
So
going to be
true.
a lot of people talking about what it is to be a makeup artist and what it is to be what you should do to get ahead. And I think a lot of those people are going to be people who are not actually makeup artists. Maybe they're producers or they're people who are selling education.
Right.
But I think we as the artist community, we need to like really like team up and share advice with each other and share our stories. So that's
Exactly.
why I'm
Because
so glad people are on here.
it's great to learn about skincare and it's great to learn about, different products that people are using, but to learn about what it really felt like to start out in this crazy industry that so many people don't know about
Yeah.
is so important. And I think that's really what informs all these people who are hoping to get to the point that you're at or some of our clients are at. And I think it's really awesome that we can do that here.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Well,
Yay.
where should we start our conversation today?
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling with all of this going on? I know you're someone who's always, on the go, always grinding and working and doing a lot of stuff at one time. And now you're kind of forced to sit and self isolate and think about things that you have done in the past. How has this been feeling for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I guess the best thing I can do is to explain like what the past couple of weeks have been for me. Like when I was department heading the other two for Comedy Central, and finishing up my designs for Company on Broadway, and West Side Story was already up and running by then. And so when basically the exact same day, within 2 hours of each other, Broadway shut down, my TV show shut down, and my whole life was turned up an end. And so at the moment, I thought, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks. They said they're going to take care of us for 2 weeks. Broadway's going to be down for a month, which is a little longer, and that makes sense. And then, so I kind of left with that in mind for a little bit. And then as time's gone on, then I kind of like kept a few days where it was like business as normal. I went home and, took a day off to rest. And then I packed up my trailer and, tried to keep things normal. And then very quickly I realized, no, this is not what this is going to be. And there was a point where I just basically watched as much television as I possibly could just to numb my brain and be out of it. And then at a certain point, after enough episodes of 30 Rock, I realized that I have to accept that this is sort of like the new normal, not forever, but for a while.
Right.
And that's where I started to kind of like come back and start feeling like myself, when I realized there were things that I could do that weren't going to change what's going on in the rest of the world, that weren't going to make it easier for medical professionals, but at least would make me the most ready to go back to work, whatever that looks like, whenever that happens.
Totally. No, and I think that's so important. I don't think any of us were ready for what was going to happen, or no one could really prepare for this kind of thing. But it's interesting to just, sit in it and experience it, and then be able to reflect on what you have done up to this point, and know that you have been able to do so much, and that one day you'll be able to do all of that again.
Yeah.
It's very surreal, but there's a lot that can be learned from it and a lot that can come out of it.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. Well, we can start all the way from the beginning. What is your history with makeup? Tell us your story, where this all started for you, and how you got to be in love with this beautiful industry.
I mean, well, my very first time just experiencing makeup was when I was in high school. I did Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, wow.
And my theater teacher was really smart, and he brought in a guest artist who was a makeup artist, and he was this nice older man with a beard, and he taught us how to lay facial hair, and he showed us demonstrations how to do aging makeup, and I was just blown away. Like, seeing that transformation was just extraordinary, and it got me really aware from the very beginning that makeup can really be a transformative experience, and that from that very first moment, I had to think about, what is the makeup supposed to do? What is it saying about the person who's wearing it? And in my case, it was showing that I was playing one of the older characters in Alatabka. And I think that actually just sticks with me. Like, first impressions are lasting impressions. And so I've always thought, like, with makeup, whether it's a character on TV, if I'm trying to make someone look glamorous, or like they're having a day off, that's sort of obvious. But even then, it can go farther. Like, it should go into fashion. It should go into everyday wear. Like, is wearing very little foundation and just a BB cream a sign that you feel really comfortable in your skin and you don't feel the need to cover up? Is choosing like these beautiful rose gold eyeshadows like you have on today, Paulette, as opposed to like a big dramatic wing, is that kind of like, hey, I like to kind of feel like a little bit of a Gwyneth Paltrow or Kate Hudson sort of look. It can say so much about who you are, and just sort of the ease that you're bringing to the day, or the fighter attitude that you're carrying with you. And I think all of the world is a stage, and if makeup is such an opportunity to kind of say something about who you are and how you feel today, every single day.
I love that. I think that's so true, and I think that really speaks to how people will connect to makeup even while they're at this time at home, just watching things on TV or seeing their favorite people on YouTube or anything. It really is a point of connection, because it just brings so many different things all together, even when you're just sitting in your bed,
Totally.
watching videos. It's so interesting.
Totally.
So what was your first official gig, and how did that feel to just be in the seat and be working and doing it?
Yeah, well, I had gotten into college and I had plans to go to Syracuse to study musical theater, and I didn't ultimately do those plans, but I decided I needed a little time off before I went straight to college out of high school. So I went to Starbucks and I got a part-time job there, and I went to Lord & Taylor and got a part-time selling men's sportswear. And I did that for a little while, and then about 6 months in, they were having what they called Beauty Week. And just, they knew that I was enthusiastic and had fun at Lord & Taylor. Every time I went up, Joe DeLuda's here, Etzel's here, hi everybody. So I knew so they did this Beauty Week thing, and they basically said, go around, promote the cosmetics department. So I got my nice suit that I would wear for chorus performances, and they gave me a tray of Godiva truffles, and they gave me a tray of apple cider, sparkling apple cider. And so I went around Lord & Taylor and was just handing these things out and saying, would you like a chocolate? And people would say, yes, I would like a chocolate while I shop. And what is this for? And they'd say, well, it's Beauty Week. You should go to the cosmetics department. They're doing samples. They're doing makeovers. And it was a hit. And then a few hours later, the general manager of the store came up to me and said, hey, would you want to sell perfume for the holiday season? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I was gung-ho for anything. I was 18. And so a couple hours later, Tom came back to me and he said, so I got your job. You're going to be selling Chanel perfume for the holiday season. And I was like, great. Okay. Yeah. So I got my nice black suit and I showed up for Chanel and I did a training session, and I was hooked. And after that, I was like, you know what? I should be making commission. I am more creative than selling coffee is going to allow me to do. I can be even more helpful than I am selling socks and jeans. So then I got a job working at Lancome, and the rest was history.
Amazing. That's so awesome. No, I love, and you've come so far in all of that. And it just shows kind of being eager and being really ready to jump at every opportunity can take you so far in this industry, in every industry really, but.
Totally. I mean, like Joe DeLude is on here. When I think of Joe, I just think of like this like sweet like energy that he brings to every job that he does, and that's just infectious. Like as creative people, like you want people around you that are going to keep the wheel spinning and keep the energy up. Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider at the other two are directors and co-creators of the show, and same deal. Like they just have so much energy and so much thinking that goes into their process that it's like you have to really help them keep that energy going. Like, if you're going to be a sad Sally, which it's easy to be at a time like this, that's one thing. But I think I really have a responsibility to my career and to my clients to use this time and deal with all of my emotions that I have to deal with and be prepared as possible.
Right. And I think it's so interesting to be able to hear you talk about people who have influenced you while some people may be tuning in because you have influenced them. You know, it's kind of beautiful to see this kind of full circle of how every little thing that someone does in this industry can affect so many people and can create so much room for this.
It is. It's totally full circle. And I think, I've seen these cycles happen many, many times where I see that something happened at this point in my life and then it was because of that moment in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the other day, I was able to track down on Facebook this woman named Adrienne Hazen, who was human resources director for the Lord and Taylor branch that I started at. And I had a whole interview with her when I was 17. And she finally realized, wait, you said you were graduating. I thought you were graduating from college. You graduated from high school. I can't hire you. You're underage. She said, and officially, I can't tell you this, but when your birthday happens in 2 weeks, come back and unofficially, I will give you a job. I really feel like I learned a lot from department stores. And there's so much that I didn't know at that point in my career, but I was really getting a lot of life skills that were preparing me for everything that's happened since.
Exactly. And I think that goes in really well with this whole, full circle kind of thing. And with this whole culmination of what you've been able to do and looking back on what you have done, I think it was interesting to see your work in West Side Story. And that was kind of culminating, to be able to see all of your design work go into such a culturally impactful project. I think so many people tuned into West Side Story and were so excited for it because it was so important in a societal sense, and especially adding tattoo design and the things that you did really helped, emphasize that and helped emphasize how it can still be relevant today in a new way than how it was created.
Totally. I think West Side Story is the most beautiful musical that's ever been written.
Love it.
Stand by that. And it's my favorite musical of all time. And as a kid who went to school for musical theater, like this was a job that I knew I was going to get. I knew I had to get it. And, I'm friends with Joe DeLude and Milagros and Judy Chin and all these people that I just thought would be hired for this job before I was. And I think any one of them would have done an amazing job. And I definitely felt like I was in uncharted waters, having never designed for a Broadway show before. I just did what I could do, which is that I called every single makeup artist that I could for all the advice that I could get. I called Daniela, and I also, though, I knew that everything in my life up until this point had been preparing me to design West Side Story. I'd gone to school for musical theater. I'm Latino. I said all of these things to Scott Rudin, who was the executive producer of West Side Story. We had a production meeting very early on, and it was a very big and very important meeting very early on in the process. And I knew that I really needed to show up with my best face forward and my most professional. And I knew that this was the moment where I'd already been hired, but I knew that I needed to show in this moment that hiring me was not a mistake,
That's
and
beautiful.
I'm in this room and it's Scott Rudin's office, and I've got 30 years of film production or however many years of movies he's been doing. And all his Broadway show posters are all around us. And to my right is Mia Neal, the hair designer. And next to her is On, the costume designer who's worked with Evo for 17 years. Then Evo, and then Evo's husband, the scenic designer and set designer. and then Scott Rudin. And Scott is an important person in this industry, and really knows what he's talking about. So I knew that this was an important conversation. And when they started talking about makeup and tattoos, I really needed to say, um, very boldly, it's like we can take this in any direction that you're inspired to take. And I think there's a lot of ways with this important text that is my favorite show of all time. But I feel prepared to do wherever we're going, because I'm Latino. I am the son of immigrants and the grandson of immigrants. I went to school for musical theater. I have done TV and film, which is there's film in West Side Story on Broadway. And I said, this I've done fashion, and An comes from a very extensive fashion background. And the most important thing for me to both getting hired for that job in the first place, and then getting the confidence from the creatives there, was knowing that even though I was in new territory, I had the support of the best makeup artists in the industry, and I had my entire life that had been leading me up to this moment. And I think wherever somebody is at, whether it's somebody working at Lord and Taylor or Sephora and doing a makeover for their only 13th, 14th time, or whether it's my friend Jason, who used to be a stage manager and just signed on, whether it's Jason using his theater experience to then like working in corporate for a TV company, everything that we do in our entire lives is getting us to the point that we're at now.
Absolutely. And that, again, that speaks to the connection of makeup in all of the ways that you don't even think about it. Makeup was the thing that brought you to this thing that you connected with on every single pole of it. It's really beautiful. It's really awesome. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Well, you mentioned a lot of people who were influential for you on that project specifically, and some inspirations you've had. Were there other projects where you worked with people that really taught you a lot and gave you some advice or tips that really stuck with you until now?
Well, you know what? Speaking of full circle, when I was at West Side Story, I'm standing outside the box office, and I'm holding my tickets, and I'm waiting for my guest to arrive. And sure enough, Julie Taymor arrives, and I say hello, and I started a conversation. I designed makeup for Julie Taymor's A Midsummer Night's Dream a few years before, and Julie did this incredibly beautiful production. You can watch it online, I believe, or you can buy it on iTunes. And I had makeup and body painting, and there was clay on the children's faces. There was adults. There were quick changes. There was a puppet mask donkey that Louis Carrion had built. It was a lot. It was extensive. It was massive, and it was so much fun. And that experience really prepared me for what West Side Story was. And part of that was because, and what I said to Julie, I said to her, Julie, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you, more than anyone else that I've ever worked with in 17 years, and I've worked with Baz Luhrmann and Catherine Martin, and I've worked on SNL for many, many years. Working for Julie on Midsummer Night's Dream, it made me a better makeup artist, because more than any other producer, director, artist, costume designer that I've ever worked with in my entire life, fashion stylist, fashion designer, more than anyone else in the entire world that I've ever worked with in this business, Julie Taymor understands the other crafts more than anyone else I've ever met. And the significance of that is that Julie Taymor not only is one of the most visionary directors anyone could ever hope to work for, she makes other artists better because of it. Every time that I got a note from Julie, I thought, okay, I gotta roll with this and incorporate this somehow. Or she would give me a challenge, and she would say, he needs to be the king of shadows. It needs to be that, but he needs to also not disappear into the background for Oberon. I said, okay, well, what do I got? And I had the supplies and I had the skills, and I just experimented and threw something at the wall. And Julie understood, like, okay, that is good, that's helpful, let's keep that, but it needed to be more of this. And then she would redirect and have a new idea and a new challenge. And to me, that is what really makes a visionary creative person. And whether it's me guiding my team or a director guiding an entire cast and crew, I mean, that's extraordinary. And I think if it wasn't for Julie, there's no way that I would have been able to roll with the punches that Evo and An had for me on this show. And Scott was very involved too.
Absolutely. No, and I love that that also came full circle for you. Again, it just like, it talks about it all. It really is so encompassing of how every one little thing can reflect and can connect to another thing in the industry, whether it be
It did, and it's
Broadway
crazy
film,
because
anything.
after that conversation, that's a lot to share with somebody at that point as you're waiting to go into the theater. So then, sure enough, I'm sitting down with costume designer Gregory Gale, who's a Tony nominee 2 times over, and sure enough, guess who sits directly in front of me?
Oh my God, I love
Julie
it. No
Taymor.
way.
So I got
Amazing.
to have a nice chat with her, and it was lovely to see her at the dawn of my theatrical makeup design career, and that I'm at the new height of it.
Beautiful. Yay. Well, there probably are some people tuning in that, are interested in doing what you're doing or hope to even work
Mm.
with you one day or, just look up to you in a lot
And
of
there's
ways
ones
for
who've
what you
already
have
done
done.
what I've done, and so much more. But
Exactly. Exactly. There's all sides of it here. It's a party.
yeah, I just want to say thanks to all the union makeup artists on
Right.
the East Coast in 798 and the West Coast in 706, and all of the Milton artists in London and in New York and New Zealand and around the world that are tuning in. It really, I'm so grateful to be in the ranks among you guys and the new kid on the block, and everyone's been nothing but welcoming. So I really feel like I'm in such esteemed company, and I'm so grateful.
We're so happy that you're here, and we're so proud to represent you. Really, like it is such an awesome thing to be able to share your story and to be able to just talk like this, like we're having a conversation. But it's because we represent someone so talented and so connected and so involved in the world that they want to connect with all of these other people who are tuning in right now. And I think it's awesome. I guess something that some people may be curious about who are looking to get more into the industry, what helped your decision to wanting to seek representation? How was that kind of change in mindset for your career? How did that go for you?
Yeah, that's a really important question. The question is how did I know that I wanted to join an agency or know when was the time to do so? So very early on in my career, I started in retail, and then I moved into celebrity, and then into fashion, and then TV and film and theater came last in that order. And an agency had been something that was very important and very much on my radar early on. And it was very much in my brain that if I wanted to be a makeup artist and make the leap outside of retail and outside of corporate, where I was also working, that I needed an agency. And people like Mary Irwin and Brian Dupree and other friends of mine that are really big fashion and editorial makeup artists and advertising and catalog, they'll probably back me up on this and say that an agent is really important because they'll have different connections. But the thing that I don't want people to be thinking at all is that you are any less responsible for your own destiny, whether or not you have an agency, whether it's me just doing a good job at the jobs that I get that Daniela represents me on, or it's me making connections and going to events and saying hello to people or following and finding out about people on social media that are important directors. There's a couple of directors that I'm talking to right now on social media. We're very much masters of our own destiny, no matter what. And no one should allow themselves to feel like if you have an agency or you don't have an agency, that is the answer to or the solution to whether or not you're going to have a job.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing about that too is that, as far as having an agency, the thing that I came up against a number of times is that it didn't happen until it was right. And I really feel like now is the right time for me to have an agency, because what I learned early on is that agencies were very confused by me. And what I mean by that is I'm somebody who's done a lot of different areas of the industry. The only thing that I haven't done, as my best friend would say, is I haven't done mortuary makeup, but shy of that, I've truly done at least a little bit of everything, and I'm credible in most areas of it. And the significance of that is that as far as agencies, they didn't know how to sell me. They didn't know how to talk about me, because I spoke to a lot of the biggest ones, and I'm talking the biggest ones, and I had important sit-down meetings with them, and they would flip through my portfolio and say, "Yeah, this is good," or "Yeah, you've done all this, but you've done all this selling stuff, so maybe you should be like a national makeup artist for a brand." And others, I would say, "Well, no, I think I should be, the face of a brand. I should be the spokesperson, like a Gucci Westman or Aaron Demey or Fred Ferrugia used to be." Or maybe I should be the celebrity artist for a brand, like Cassandra at Bobbi Brown is. Or Ricky Wilson at Dior, Sarah Lucero at Stila. And so I had all these conversations, but other people thought, well, you love doing TV and film, so maybe you're supposed to be doing that. And these people could not figure out where to put me. And the problem is that is a very far-sighted, dated sort of way to look at an artist. whether you're a makeup artist or whether you're a sculptor or a painter or a filmmaker, that's a terrible approach to thinking about someone's creativity and their skills and their saleability. If you're an agent, you really need to understand that the diversity of an artist is what makes us special. I would not have been able to work for Julie Taymor or West Side Story, or I think either for Louis at Saturday Night Live, if I couldn't do all of the things that I had done leading up to this point. I mean, this is not a complicated question. Like, mind you, I did 22 seasons of New York Fashion Week, 22 seasons. But on Duhui, on Das, it's spelled Duhui, it's pronounced on Das. On the costume designer from West Side Story, On had 12 seasons on the Multimedia working for her. And that's an incredible designer. So when I spoke to On, I knew where she was coming from. And I knew, as her being a European stylist and fashion designer, that On was going to have a certain type of aesthetic that she was going to impart onto this production. So while I, as a New Yorker for my entire life, had a very specific idea of what I thought this cast could look like, I had to incorporate On's vision as well. And if I hadn't done fashion, I wouldn't have been able to do this. If I had just said, no, I have to do union, I have to do this, I have to be on set, I would not have been prepared to do this job. And I would have not been able to sit there with my head held high and know that I was ready to do the job that was being asked of me.
Absolutely.
So I think it's fine that I didn't have an agency at the time that I did. Mind you, all 3 times that I almost joined agencies, it turned out to be a close call, a very close call. One of them shut down. Another one, they went bankrupt, and then another didn't pay me. So, yeah, sometimes sometimes things happen for the best.
Absolutely. It really does happen for a reason. And it's so true what you're saying about being able to do so many things, and how, you know, that is something that really helped elevate your craft rather than held you back to only sticking into one box and everything. That's really true to the times of today. You know, multimedia is so important. Everything is being taken at different channels and at different times and through different platforms. And that is, you know, to be able to be successful in the way that you are successful, I think that's really important to understand and to tap into in your craft.
Totally. And this is important for all kinds of artists. I mean, like, watch any actor that you watch on TV right now. And the best ones, I think, right now to be watching are the comedians. Because, I mean, comedians, more than I think anyone else, me having worked at SNL for as long as I have, or worked on John Mulaney's special, The Sack Lunch Bunch, or having worked on, what's the other comedy thing? Oh, The Other Two, where I'm department head. You know, comedians really capture what's going on in the world and really take commentary. Like, I remember Nicole Byer, who's the host of Nailed It, said one time, you know, if you're going to be a comedian, you have to have a perspective on life. So if you're just trying to, like, think about how to spend your time right now, totally go follow Nicole Byer, go follow my girl Sashir Zameda, go follow all these great people, because the comedians really have it down. And what they're really doing is they're really evolving. Like, there's one comedian that I follow who is just posting videos of him just dancing. He, like, gets in his underwear and he puts on a fun song and he just dances around in his kitchen and has a blast. Like, we're artists. We need to celebrate all sides of us, and we need to remember that we're emotional people, and we need to have fun where we can, and you know, listen to a sad song once in a while if we need to do that too.
Exactly.
Hi, Rachel Estabrook. I see you're just joining us.
Hello, everyone. Yay. Going off of that too, you mentioned SNL, which we of course have to highlight because you are an Emmy winner for SNL, which is insane. Look at that right there. A beauty. Was that something that you kind of set out with a goal to, you know, get your work recognized with an award, and you were like, I'm going to win an Emmy one day? Or were you just completely shook by what happened and how this all came together?
I think it depends on who you ask. Like, I mean, I think if you were to ask my parents, they would probably say that I planned this from the very beginning. Like, I was the kid growing up who, you know, was very exuberant, and, you know, I wanted to be a theater kid. And so I'm sure that, like, this is something that I envisioned as a child to some extent, probably, like, more as an entertainer, as an actor. But, like, I remember getting a soccer trophy, which was, like, mind you, a participation trophy, like, at the end of the soccer year when I was in kindergarten. And I fully remember holding that trophy up and, like, thanking up to God, who I still believed in at the time, and saying, thank you, like, fully in the middle of the soccer field, giving, like, an awards thank you speech with gratitude for my kindergarten participation trophy for soccer. So yeah, I think to some extent I probably planned this. But as an adult, no, definitely not. I to the extent that when I got to SNL the very first time, I had been hired for a pre-tape on a Thursday night. I got a call. It was from Josh Torrey. Josh called me because I was working for the Today Show, and that's how they got my information for SNL because it's the same network, it's NBC. So Josh got my info from the Today Show, and then said, "Can you come do a pre-tape with us?" The next day, I did a pre-tape, and then Daniela, who's one of the makeup artists there, said to Louis, like, "Yeah, the new kid was great. It was fun." So then the next day, I get a phone call, and this jubilant voice is like, "Hello, is this Andrew?" It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He's like, "Yes," and it says NBC, and he's like, "This is Louis Zacharian." And I'm like, "I know who this is. I know who this is." And so he's like, "This, I'm the department head on Saturday Night Live." I'm like, "I know who this is. You don't need to explain." And then Louis is like, "Somebody called out sick. It's very last minute, but I'm wondering if we have a live show tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, it's called Saturday Night Live. I'm aware you have a live show. Oh my God, what is happening?" And Louis says, "Can you come in?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. What do I need to bring? What do I need to wear?" He's like, "Wear whatever. Just, we'll give you everything. We'll figure out, and we'll figure out who you're going to work on when you get here. Just, maybe bring your brushes and just come. Bring your ID." So I went. I got changed. I got showered, and I went to SNL. And I was so nervous with this like deer in the headlights look that every single person who's ever started at SNL has. Even the Broadway artists, the hairstylists like Joe Whitmire will tell you this, that they were like, "Oh my God, something's going to happen." Melanie Dimitri, another one of my friends there, who was there for a long time, same deal. We all, at SNL, our very first days, we all were like, "Something's going to happen." And everyone asked me, like, "Is it going to be crazy? It's going to be crazy. Do you work at SNL? Oh my God, it must be crazy over there." And then eventually you realize like it's a very well-oiled machine. We've done 45 seasons there. A lot of people come from Broadway. A lot of people are department heads in other shows. And we have a really strong, fearless leader who's a wonderful, wonderful person as well. So when it came to SNL, though, it's such a challenging environment. It's so demanding. And, we roll with the punches. And everybody who's there is there on Saturday after having worked full-time on other shows for like 60 hours. And so then if you go to work another 8 hours for SNL on Saturday, we're going to be there till 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, you don't show up for SNL unless you are ready and excited to be there at SNL. I think that's why the show works. I think that's why the makeup department runs, as credit to Louis, and also as a credit to, what he's established that we need to come in as, like with our attitudes. And I try to carry that with me everywhere else that I go. But it's like, if you don't want to be here, don't, because you're taking away an opportunity from somebody else who's excited and ready to be there. And it's a team spirit. That said, I'm somebody who is often subject to imposter syndrome. As much as I said, even like with West Side Story, I said, everything in my life has prepared me for this experience. Very much the imposter syndrome was like, level 10. Like, my associate makeup designer, Mikey Clifton, has been at Lionsgate for 6 years. He's an incredible graphic artist and an incredible fine artist. And so to sit next to him every day in my apartment drawing, like, come on, that's very intimidating. Or then to be at SNL and have, Daniela Zivkovic, who's been at SNL for many, many years, and to have original makeup artists from Gossip Girl, original makeup artists from Sex and the City, and Louis, who's been there for 26 years, more than half the lifetime of Saturday Night Live. To be surrounded with all of these people, like, that's scary. And in throwing back to 2017, that was a very tumultuous year for me because 2017, something around that. It was an interesting year because I felt like I'd gotten into my groove. But my wonderful, wonderful actress that I was working for every Saturday was Sashir Zameda. And Sashir realized towards the end that it wasn't really where she belonged and she wasn't thriving, which is often the case for people that they do a season and then they go on to do other amazing things. Like, who can even remember that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was on Saturday Night Live? There's the Kristen Wiig's where it's like, oh my God, she's Kristen Wiig. She's one of the greatest SNL personalities to ever come out of the show. And there's people like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's just an amazing SNL graduate, but you kind of forget that was part of her career. Like, Sashir Zameda is kind of the same way. Like, she's already off to doing movies and her next comedy special is coming up. But Sashir was leaving and I thought, oh my God, I mean, I've been here for around 5 years now. But so Sheer's leaving. She's my actress. Like who knows? Maybe there will be a budget cut. Maybe they won't hire another girl. Maybe who knows? Maybe whatever. So it's the season finale, and then I'm in the makeup lab and I'm talking to Louis, and he says, "Come here, let me talk to you for a second." And I'm like, "I'm getting fired." Fully, I was like, "I'm getting fired. It's done." I did SNL for 5 years. I had a really busy year. I was here 3 days a week, which is a lot for this show. So I'm done. I can say I did what I did. I tried my best, and I can be proud, and I'm done. Fully like preparing myself, and he's like pulls me like into the corner. He's like, "So I just want to talk to you. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. I'm getting fired. I really appreciate everything you've done. I'm getting fired. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you. I'm getting fired. And so I want you to know that I put you on the Emmys ballot this year." And I'm like, wait, what?
Amazing.
1,000%, not exaggerating. That's exactly how my brain went at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the other day, Daniela called me just to share sort of her own X-Men origin story, because I'm talking about mine today. And it's like, Daniela's going to be like, "In this difficult economy, we're probably not going to be able to work together anymore." I was like, this is
I'm done.
This is my default. So all the more important that I train myself to like, and we train ourselves to like, work through our stuff. So I'm listening to a lot of Mel Robbins right now.
Amazing.
I think your original question though was like, what was it like to win an Emmy?
Listen up every part of it. I really like it.
I mean, with that, like after I got through that, and like 6 months later, once once the nominations were announced, and then and I joined the Academy, and then once we were in LA, and then we actually won. It was so surreal. I mean, it's still to this day the proudest moment of my career. I didn't expect it. I for myself, I mean, I knew that SNL has always been a strong contender, and the work that we do is just unlike the work that happens anywhere else, and it happens so fast. Like even on my TV show, I know weeks in advance what we're doing. Louis and Jason, they find out stuff days before it happens, or we do a pre-tape, and 24 hours later, it's on national TV. But still, I remember looking to Rachel, who does Kate McKinnon's makeup, and she was sitting next to me, and we just looked over at each other with this look of like oh, it's like just fear, just scared, like this is not a every year of your life sort of award or nomination even that comes. So I really wanted it, and when it happened, I just, this wave rushed over me, and the woman who announced it was the woman who does the voice of Lisa Simpson on Simpson. And she goes, if you remember who she is, leave it in the comments section below. But she says, and the Emmy goes to that, and my mind went blank. The crowd went wild. I jumped up, and we all walked past our dates to get out of the aisle and into the aisle and to go on stage. And I don't remember walking down the aisle except for maybe the last 3 feet of it, and then helping Daniela, the makeup artist, onto the stage. And it's funny, if you go back far enough through my Instagram, you can probably see a picture of us on stage, and Louis is giving his speech, and then everybody else is like looking towards Louis and giving him their undivided attention. And me, being the former theater kid, I'm looking onto the screens that they have in the corner where the audience is all watching close-up versions of what's happening on stage. So I was making sure, like a good makeup artist, that we all looked right, because I was watching the monitor as if we were on a film set.
So, you had your angles. I love that.
Yeah, old habits die hard.
I love that. That gave me chills. That was it's so, again, with culminating and connecting, it goes into that so much of just such a busy and difficult job to have that you love so much and were afraid could be, taken away from you in a second, ended up being something that you were recognized for, and you'll forever live with that moment.
Well, my cousin Christina, who's a line producer out in Los Angeles, just wrote that it's your Lee Smith who does the voice of Lisa Simpson on Saturday Night Live. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
Perfect. Thank you.
And what I have to say is, like, people ask me all the time, like, what happened from that moment that Lee Smith announced our team? What happened, and how did that change my career? And that's sort of an impossible question to ask, because I'd been a makeup artist then for about 15 years at that point. So, so much had happened before then So I don't really know, the wheels were in motion. So I don't know what the Emmy did and didn't do and what it really accomplished. It's impossible to say, because on one hand, I know that I've had to continue working hard since then, but I know that there's a certain degree of trust that people see when they see my name. There's a certain accolade and a certain level of distinction that, while I think there's a lot of people working around me who are just as strong or better makeup artists than I am, that also deserve this award, I know that I didn't get here by accident. I know Louis is a smart enough guy that if there was somebody more deserving or more willing to receive this award and to use it to grow his career and to grow my own career and to support the industry, that Louis would have given that nomination ballot to somebody else. So it's hard to say what else is there and what this has really done for my career. The way that I can say that the Emmy has changed my career is related to how it's changed my life and how it's changed me. Because the thing about the Emmy Award is that, regardless of like how rough a day I might have on set one time, or what kind of crappy deal someone might try to offer me, there is a gold-plated statuette behind me that reminds me in an inarguable way that no one will ever be able to take away from me, that I have a lot of years of credibility, experience, lesson, allies, friends, teachers, and again, experience that got me to this point, that have prepared me to do whatever challenges will come up for me today. Absolutely. And I can't argue with that. I can't fight that. And no matter what fear may come up for me as an artist, as every creative person is subject to, it's undeniable that there's a moment that it cannot be taken away, right. And that it's proof. And it's a dark time that we're in. But so even thinking of dark thoughts, like I think, like, what if somebody wrote up my bio for me? Like, what would they say about me? They would definitely list the Emmy, and they would definitely say, like, this is somebody who had a reason to feel self-esteem, had a reason to feel pride. So the thing I just want to add to that is, like, I've been in this business for a long time, and I've remembered a lot of sad moments, like where people like Scott Patrick, who was the makeup head for Project Runway, passed away, and my friend Michael Bowen, who was a makeup artist for NARS, or Jake Bailey, who was Katy Perry's makeup artist, and Ross Burton, who is the creative director of Lancome, or Leo, who I worked with at the Lancome stores. I remember all these people passing away way too young. And there's a woman named Darcy Sterling, and if you don't follow Darcy Sterling on social media or get her newsletters, I encourage every single person who works long hours, or who lives with a medical professional, or who is a nurse, or who is an artist of any sort, or is a makeup artist, or just has been suffering in any sort of way, like, follow Darcy, follow Mel Robbins, get their newsletters, get their videos, and take good care of yourselves, because the most important thing we have is how we take care of ourselves. And it's even more important for artists to do so, because we constantly give and give and give. And on a makeup set, unless you're the makeup department head, you might be the lowest ranking among the lower ranking people, creatively at least. Like the PAs, like, come on, those guys work the hardest and for the least thanks and the least money. But I'm not giving direction to other departments as a department head, as a makeup artist. And if you're in fashion, you're probably the only makeup artist or the only hairstylist on a photo shoot that does what you do and really understands the passion and the creativity and strength it took for you to get to that point in your own career. So it's important for you to take care of yourself and to take care of each other. And I think we're going into a period right now that's going to be very scary, and a lot of makeup artists and hairstylists are going to try to hunker down and really grab tightly onto whatever we own and whatever clients we have, and be afraid to support each other, or be afraid to give advice to each other. But I think the best thing we can do is to do the opposite of that. Like, we got to stand together, and we got to tell each other, hey, I can't do this job, you should go do it. I'll tell my client that you're a wonderful person, and I'm going to tell you this is how much you should charge for them, because you shouldn't be doing makeup for $700-$100 a day. You should be charging $300, $500, $1,000, $1,500 for this job. And we need to share that advice with each other, because if we leave it up to producers to tell us, and for creative directors to tell us what we should be making, we're going to make less and less money, and we deserve better. And I think you all that are aspiring know that too.
Exactly. I think that's awesome advice, both to remind, veterans in the industry, as well as tell people who are just starting out. It reigns true for every single step of the way as you're going up and up in the makeup industry. And I think that's really, really important advice. And before we wrap up all of this, do you have other advice for some people? I know a lot of people wrote in that, they may be starting their dabble into the career of makeup now while they have more time on their hands, or just trying to learn more while they're looking online.
Well, I definitely want to talk to those people that are getting their career started, because I know that a lot of the Milton Agency followers are getting their career started. So for those of you that are just joining, or if you're a makeup artist and you have questions, throw us questions, like leave them in the comment section. I can see them right here. Paula can see them too. So if you have questions about your career, about how to get where I've gotten, then definitely ask us. Paula, were there any things, while we're waiting for those questions from the viewers to come in, are there any questions that you already know that people are wondering about specifically?
Yeah, we had one asking, whose work would you recommend studying if you're looking for more information from past film or TV or things like that? Is there anyone who you think is worth studying?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hi, Travis. Rad Trav is a wonderful photographer I love working with. He's a neighbor of mine too. And the question that came in, thank you. If anyone else has questions, definitely ask them, because we're down to
send them right here.
Leave them in the bottom. We've got about 7 minutes left. The question was like, who should we look to if you're an aspiring makeup artist? The top name on everybody's list should be Kevin Aucoin. When I was in the department stores, I would bring my Kevin Aucoin books with me to every single day, and I would try to recreate those looks that Kevin did on my friends and occasionally on customers to various degrees of success. But Kevin really inarguably wrote the best makeup books that were ever written. And Kevin started in department stores and then became who he became. So he's the perfect example of a journey. And as far as film and TV, I mean, everyone needs to look at the work of Lois Burwell, Judy Chin, Joe Dulude, Sarah Brock, and the Matthew Mungle, because what's amazing about these artists is that they are artists that, when you think about their work, you can see that there's art influence and fashion influence and special effects, and really just they do a lot of different things, because there are a lot of people who are going to say to young makeup artists, like, you should be in fashion, you should be in TV, you should be in TV but only doing special effects, you should be doing beauty, you should only be doing the news. It's nonsense. You have to learn how to do everything, because you never know when it's going to apply. I mean, on the other two, it's no secret that at the last episode of season 1, Molly Shannon, speaking of news, hi Melly Callie. There's a talk show, a daytime talk show that Molly Shannon's show on the other two takes over. So I worked on the Today Show, I worked on the Rachel Ray Show, so I knew, like, this is what the makeup needs to look like, because I did a little bit of everything. So look at these artists and do that. There's a question, how was it to work with the cast of West Side Story and collaborate with each actor on their visions for their tattoos? Ooh, great question. Okay, so if you didn't know, I'm the makeup and tattoo designer for West Side Story on Broadway.
Yay.
Broadway's down until at least May 15th, but hopefully longer than that, maybe even longer. I mean, hopefully we'll be back sooner than that. But the question is, what was it like to work with the cast? So the cool thing about West Side Story is that it's really an amazing mix of Broadway veterans who had been in shows like Cats and other shows, and then others who'd never done a Broadway show ever in their entire lives. And some of them were, around 30, and some were, I think the youngest in the cast was 17. So I really had to, as Scott Rudin put it, he's like, we really all have to educate them and guide them through this creative process. And one thing that I knew was that the tattoos were going to be a lot of work for the actors to maintain every day, and for my team to have to maintain. So I really wanted to impart upon them how every tattoo that I put on their bodies was to help tell the story of their character. And I knew that what I loved about them, like just a beautiful tattoo, wasn't going to be enough to inspire them to go through the work that they needed to get them on every single night. or twice a week. So the stories, if you can get like look for great photographs. They're on my website. They're on the actors' pages. Look at the pictures of the tattoos, and you can really see all the details. Like all the sharks have tiburon, which is shark in Spanish, somewhere on the bodies.
Awesome.
There's eagles representing the jets. Even to their story where Daniel Chang has a building that I drew, and I combined a couple different buildings from the Upper West Side of New York City, and I decided this was the little brownstone building where his character Snowboy lived when he was a child with his grandmother because both of his parents had abandoned him, and he had it tattooed on his back because it was his only happy memory from his childhood.
Beautiful. Amazing.
Another question.
Yes.
What was your very first makeup job, and how did you successfully work your way up from there? My first makeup job was working at Lord & Taylor at the Lancome counter, so I have a lot of appreciation for what people do in department stores. I was a big advocate of department stores paying people to stay home and stay healthy at the start of this epidemic, and I hope that they continue to pay people. Like I think Ulta is one of the ones that's paying for people longer than other brands are. So thank you, Ulta. I'll be ordering products from you. But I started in retail. From there, they discovered me on the e-commerce team, so I started helping them with the website, making the website better, and helping pair products. And then from there, I started working with the PR team at Lancome, and that's how I got introduced to actors and models, and then into the editors. And then from there, the editors started bringing me to their TV gigs, and that's how I started meeting the TV makeup artists. And that's how I got into TV, and that's how I got to the Today Show, and then the SNL, and then to film in Broadway after that.
Yay. Perfect.
Other questions?
Yeah, let's see. We have a few minutes left if anyone wants to send anything in. And if anyone tuned in late or missed any part of this, we're going to try to save this and post it up on our Milton Agency Instagram TV and in our little highlights as well. So anyone can watch the rest of it and watch it from the beginning if you want to hear the whole story and hear all the good stuff that we talked about today.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Brad asks, what's the secret to your amazing skin? You guys ready for this? The secret to amazing skin, which is a compliment that I get kind of regularly, thank you, go vegan.
Yes.
The best thing you can do to improve the health of your skin, go vegan. Christina Goldberg says, how do you see our work environment in our new normal? Christina, that's a great question. I think that's a wonderful place for us to sort of end on. I think our work environment in the new normal is going to change. It's going to evolve, and I think we all know this. And the most important thing that we can do is to embrace that and to roll with it. Because the only way that I got to this point in my career was because I knew I was opportunistic in the best sort of ways. Like I would look and I would see, hey, I've never done a model's makeup before, but that sounds like a really fun thing to do. Let me go do that. Or somebody asked, like, would you ever want to work in television? And I said, yeah. And so I went and got a job working for the Today Show. I said yes and tried new things constantly. I was curious. And our work environments, we're going to get through this together. Whatever happens to us, whatever happens, we're going to get through it by continuing to be creative and curious and trying new things. But also remembering that what we say yes to is just as important as what we say no to. There was a job that I turned down. It was an off-Broadway job that came right after a design for Julie Taymor's Midsummer Night's Dream. Another off-Broadway show came to me and asked if I would design the makeup for their show. And they didn't really have a budget. So I said, well, I can't do a full long process, but here's what I can do. I can do this for the amount of money that you have, and then I can refer you to somebody to design the wigs. And they declined. And I said, well, fine, no problem. I told you what I was willing to do, and I wasn't willing to go above that. And I turned down that job. And the costume designer fully respected me, and I stayed in touch with her. I was grateful that she thought of me at all. And then years later, she called me back and she said, hey, would you ever want to design the makeup for West Side Story? And I said, oh my God, yes. And it was that same person who I turned her down. And other people will tell you, I'm going to say this so important, other people will tell you, whether they're people running trade shows or people selling makeup classes or they're fashion people or any type of people, they will tell you, this job doesn't have a good budget, but it's a good connection. Don't listen to it. Know that you are worth the skills and the experience that you have, and that is the bottom line. So what you say no to is going to help you have the energy and the strength to feel pride and enthusiasm every time you show up for work. We have a question from Daniela Milton. Apart from being talented at makeup, what other qualities do you need to be successful? Yeah, in other words, as Daniela is saying, it's not only talent, personality counts. It's like you've got to have passion for what you do. You have to celebrate this opportunity to be an artist, and you have to know that you have to take great pride in it. You know, when I was an actor and I was in school in London at the Globe, they did something that was very different from when I was in college, which is school in the United States was such a negative, sad experience. And they were so dark and miserable as these teachers. But in London, they were such a breath of fresh air because they took such pride in educating. And they said, being an actor, they said it's noble work because you, as an actor, you tell stories and you capture the human experience. And as makeup artists, we're right close to that. And we have people more than a hairstylist. We sit less than 6 feet away. That's why we can't do our job. We sit an arm's distance away from people. We touch their eyes and lips after meeting them for only a few moments. And we make them feel better about themselves in a vulnerable moment. We help them find the characters they're going to play on TV. We help them to feel beautiful in front of a very tough world that's going to judge everything about them. There's great pride to be had in being a makeup artist, and we need to remember that. And that's the most powerful thing that we have. And the last thing that I'll say is this, is that makeup is only superficial so far as you allow it to be. The thing that the Kevin O'Quan books taught me, and that every woman that I've ever worked with since then has taught me, is that makeup does something that is the opposite of politics. Politics divide us now more than ever. It breaks us into smaller and smaller groups. Fashion, it's a world that's very creative and artistic, but it's not a space that celebrates diversity enough. It tries to, but either it doesn't or it doesn't go far enough. But what makeup does that no other industry that I know of does is it's a great equalizer, because you could be slim or you could be full figured. You could be having $1 million to your name. You could be out of work. You could be at the dawn of your career, or you could be an experienced professional with 17 years. But you can wear whatever your gender is, no matter even what your faith is. You are welcome to participate. You can look like a plain Jane, and if you feel that way, but you want to feel like a glamour girl, you get to put on a red lipstick. Like, you're invited to the party. You get to participate. And as a beauty professional, that's the most powerful thing that I've ever had the chance to learn, is that this is a space, the makeup world, where the rules are not so important. The trends are not so important. The chance to bring out a little bit more of who you are, and to remind yourself, whether it's a bit of sunscreen or lip balm or a winged eyeliner, this is your chance to just remind yourself that you deserve to feel special, and you deserve to have a little bit of creativity in your life, no matter who you are.
That was so beautiful. I felt that in my heart. Thank you so much for those words. And I'm so glad that we got to do this on this platform and have this conversation, because I'll remember that forever, even someone who doesn't know how to do my makeup yet very well. That is something I think is so
Thank you to
important.
Milton Agency. Thank you to Milton around the world. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. We're so happy we did Milton Presents with you, and we're so excited to keep getting this on the road and doing our thing here and having these conversations. So
thank you all the viewers. You guys are great, and leave questions below. We'll be sure to answer them. Follow us.
You guys.
Stay in touch. Be safe.
Yes. Mwah. We'll speak soon.